2, 3, 4.
Welcome to Don't Do That, the podcast where we talk about what not to do at work and beyond.
As equity practitioners, we found ourselves often thinking that folks should stop doing things before they start doing things. Hence the title of our podcast, Don't Do That. I'm Ani. I'm an equity coach, organizational equity strategist, and educator with a deep curiosity for how to improve systems and a commitment to lift others as I continue to learn and grow.
I'm Karen, and I've worked in social justice for over a decade. I'm a consultant, coach, and thought partner. My purpose is to make community matter. I do that by helping leaders create better work environments. Adi and I met as consultants and quickly became friends. Collectively, we have over 25 years of experience navigating equity, inclusion, and justice in the workplace. Don't Do That is a platform to tell stories about making mistakes at work and how to fix them. The views on this podcast are our own. We do not speak on behalf of our organizations or the communities we mention.
Welcome, listeners. Today on Don't Do That, we are officially wrapping up season 1 of our podcast. Today, Karen and I are taking a pause for the summer and chatting about, before we wrap, all of our faves from our season. And we have a wonderful guest with us today. Clap it up for our amazing producer extraordinaire who took us from okay to great, Ja. We're excited to have you here to chat more about our faves from the season as we prepare for this break for the fall. So before we get into talking about some of those things, we want you to introduce yourself, Ja. As you know, when we have guests introduce themselves on our pod, we ask them to share not just their sort of professional background, but something about themselves that does not live on your resume that can help people better understand you. So I'm going to pass the mic to you so you can do that for our listeners.
Can I just insert like an applause here for myself? Yay!
Please.
Yeah.
But excited to be with you both on screen instead of behind the scenes. Jael Henry. I go by Ja, he, him. I'm a director in a public affairs firm called Raven. I work in our culture, strategy, and organizational design practice. Before I came to Raven, I've been a producer for, I'll say, like over 12 years now. So it's been a long time of putting in efforts into what has now become like the booming podcast scene, but first starting off in radio and like doing a lot of that work. So excited to see where the field has come. And excited to be on one of my favorite podcasts. Don't Do That. The thing that
Not biased.
Not biased at all. No bias. No bias at all. The thing that I would say, and I went back and forth on what I would choose. But something that's not on my resume, I would say that like when I was a kid, I was a part of a all boys choir, a competitive choir. We used to compete against other primary schools in my homeland of Dominica. And I guess a part of why that is important for me is that I remember being a kid and like our like music teacher, Mr. Marie, he used to put us in the AV room and he used to watch Sister Act and like practice the song.
About that way.
Yep. We used to be in like the AV room with Mr. Marie, watching Sister Act, like practicing the songs. That was like the first place I'll say that like I built community outside of like my family. But outside of that, I think it sparked a love for the arts in my life. And then like that turned into writing later on. That turned into producing and writing later on, even further down the line. But that was the first place where like I realized that art was an avenue that I loved and wanted to explore more, and like it helped shape what my career turned out to be.
Oh, that's awesome. And I learned something new today too.
I know. And Ja is super talented, so y'all please be on the lookout for him.
With all the things. We'll put all of your things in our show notes so folks can connect with you. So before we get into our discussion, as I mentioned at the top, our goal today is to really think about reviewing our faves from the season. When Karen and I first got started with this podcast, I'll say a couple things. When Karen and I first got started with this podcast, one thing that we talked about is how sort of like growth and continued evolution is so important to like this work in general. So for us, reflection, doing a bit of an after action, taking a pause to think about how we can come back and continue to evolve into our best selves is like really important practice. It's a definite do that. The other thing I want to say is, Ja, we wanted you to be a part of this because you first, I made a joke of it, but I'm very serious when I say you took us from okay to great, just giving your expertise. And it's really important to just like lean on experts. And it's great that you are also a friend. So that was super helpful for us. So we thought, who better to help us reflect on the season than someone who is an expert? So with that, I will kick us off into our discussion. So I will start with just a basic question. What was your favorite episode of the season and why? And John, we'll start with you, and then Karen and I will chime in.
So for me, it was an episode that you all had Melissa on, around like healing workplace trauma. Um, it felt like a therapy session in a lot of ways. Um, Me as someone who also holds an immigrant background, being I'm not an only child, but I was raised as an only child. So there are like a lot of different expectations with that come along with that, and like moving from the Caribbean with my mom when I was 15, and like I guess like her putting the weight of the family and like on me to like take it from there. Like, all right, I did my part. We got our 4 suitcases. We moved to Harlem. Now it's on you to figure it all out from there. And like that's something that I think in terms of just schooling, but then also like when I got into like the workforce of something that I held with me. And there's something that Melissa said around grief that really resonated with me because I think we think a lot about how our identities factor into how we show up at work, how our family backgrounds factor into how we show up at work. But like grief is another really big part of all of that. And what that looked like for me was in 2019, my grandmother passed away. And like she was the person when I was a kid that all the things about myself I love the most, I say I get that from her.
Mm,
So like after she passed away, it was me figuring out like I locked in on everything. And then by the end of it, I had the career that I wanted. I just had like a promotion. I bet on myself, and I got like the promotion that I wanted. Um, Creatively, and just like my outside of work projects, I just signed my first deal on something. I graduated from grad school the December before, but that spring, end of the spring, was when my grad school graduation was. So like from the start of the year, from my January to like that May, like so many amazing things happened, and I should have been like incredibly happy, and I wasn't. I didn't even go to my grad school graduation,
mm,
because for me it was just like I put a lot of energy and time, and just like emotions into making something happen to pay respect to her. At the end of it, it was just like what parts of this were for me.
yeah.
And like now that I did all the things that I said I was going to do, like why aren't I happy? And like that's something that I had to wrestle with. That is something that reshaped how I view not only like my personal life, but like my work life as well. And then like refiguring out what my why is and not placing it so much on other people that you lose sight of what it is that like you want for yourself. And in
Yep.
the end, I did all those things for me. But I think it took time for me to like step back and like reevaluate that because then like my mindset going into all of those things was not focused on what it is that like y'all wanted.
Yeah. I mean, that's very relatable. I love that episode too. Again, as like a first generation American, like the weight of I think my parents' story is just hard to shake the responsibility of that, right? Like um, even like just lived gratitude. I remember as a even as a child, like being told like, well, why are you sad? Like, what do you have to be sad about? Or like, you have such a beautiful life here. It's like, well, yes, and you feel that through like work and all those things. It's like, how could I don't have permission to relax. I don't have permission to relax. Like I've been given this like gift, right? And like, how can I do that? I think one thing that stood out to me from that episode, Ja, was we talked about, you know, everything is possible for your future. Like, you might think like, if I let go of this thing, then I'm losing something. But it's like, when you let go, you're making way for like everything to be possible. So I've definitely been thinking about like, what does that actually look like? So
I love that. I would actually, that was my thinking too. I love, that was one of my favorite episodes as well because it felt very personal. And I think a lot of folks can relate in various ways. For myself, I really appreciated the way that Melissa was so vulnerable in that conversation, and just my own experience at work and experiencing negative work environments that allowed me to like take a blow to my professional confidence, I think is something that a lot of folks also experience. And when we talked about giving ourselves permission to just be and like be a human being and not a human doing, I think that for me is something that still resonates for sure.
yeah. Was that your official pick for favorite episode, Karen?
No, but I loved it. I mean, I, for the sake of not repeating favorite episodes, which it was on the top of my list, I actually really enjoyed our intro episode when we introduced the
Yes.
podcast because I think it gave folks a good insight into who we are as individuals, but also the banter between you and I, Ani, that comes
Mhm.
so naturally. And so I think that was one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah. I mean, I think for a similar reason, our episode around leadership and leadership styles was my favorite, because I think even knowing how you show up, in everyday life, like hearing you talk about like the intention and your inspiration and how leadership looks for you, it was for me another way for us to sort of get to know each other and unpack like our dynamic in that way. So I like that episode. That was my fave.
Cool.
Okay, so what about favorite do that or don't do that?
So before I answer that question, can I say it's not an episode, but one of my favorite things about this season is that every single time when we wrap, Ani laughs to end off the outro.
I'm so awkward. I can't help
No,
it.
I love it so much. I love it so much. And I always need to keep it in so everyone else can hear it because it brings a smile to my face. Uh, but then for favorite don't do that, there was an episode around workplace traditions, and one it was funny from start to finish. Um, but it was just like something that Ani was saying about like, well, the context to it makes it funnier. I was co-working with a friend, and then she was on her Black ERG, and then I could hear them having. They were planning for Juneteenth actually, but I could like hear them talking in the background. And one of her coworkers said, maybe we should have like a. She said maybe we should have a mac and cheese baking competition
See?
so that different it's like maybe we should have a mac and cheese baking competition to see how different cultures make their mac and cheese. And
Love
then like when she was done, that exact day I was editing that episode, and when she was done I was like, please come sit next to me. And then it was like you talking about like, don't ask me to make Ethiopian food, like I don't even cook for real, I order out like you. uh the context made it even funnier, but I loved that episode just because of just how hilarious it was. But there was like real world context around it.
See? We out
that.
here saving workplaces.
Yeah,
Please.
you saved the workplace. You saved the
Do
workplace.
that and don't do that was also that episode too. We were talking about Karen's do that or don't do that around wearing attire, um, whether or not you should wear cultural attire to commemorate at Holiday or Heritage Month. And I think it's very important. All the memes that went around of like congresspersons like kneeling in the rotunda with their kente stoles, with their like things like that just really are such a waste of everything. It's just like, why of all the things we can spend time and money on, It's like, why have we chosen that? So that was like hilarious. Also, I think any conversation around fashions with Karen is my favorite.
I love
So,
that. I will say that my favorite and most memorable moment, and I don't know if our listeners know that our do that and don't do that segment is actually unscripted. So Ani and I don't
yeah.
know what each other is going to say, which I think also adds to our authentic reactions. And so the episode on when we talked about the language of DEI, you mentioned it was something akin to like a white affinity space or ERG. And I had to take a moment because I was surprised. I'm like, how did she come up with this?
Well,
And
that's real.
I know. And I'm like, but it was so unexpected. And like, I was like, how am I going to answer this? And inside, I was cracking up, but I knew I was like, I have to answer this properly. But also, I'm shocked that this is even a part of like a do that or don't do that. But that was my most memorable one. That was the one that took me off guard of all the seasons episodes. That was it.
That is so funny. Because I mean, I feel like that happens all the time. As shocking as maybe it was to you, it definitely happens all the time. Okay, so last question is just general reflections. How have you, Karen, grown over the season? Ja, have you seen our growth and evolution over the season? And what are you hoping to sort of take away as we take this pause and think about next season?
Yeah, I would say that this has been my happy place, and doing this has been so fun. And I'm just so grateful to you, Ja, for like seeing the idea that Ani and I had, and being like, yes, absolutely, I will help. Because another story is Ani and I started recording episodes and thought we were in the clear, and we were like, here, Ja, here's some audio, like, edit this for us. And you were like, yeah, y'all are gonna have to start over.
Respectfully.
Right? Like, basically, this is trash and we need to redo it. but I'll help you be great. And so I think just that evolution has been really cool, because sometimes you have an idea and you're like, I don't know where to start, but I'm just gonna like start from what I know. But you need people and experts to say, here's how you do it properly. So I appreciate the fact that you jumped in, and then the fact that Ani and I were just willing to go into something that we've never done before, but that we saw an opportunity to have real conversations about work.
Yeah. Ja, we'll let you get the last word on this one. I will say one thing that I am constantly surprised is like that people actually listen. So I don't know why, but I'm like, oh, why would anyone want to hear like me and Karen like rant or ramble? But I do think like as we are taking the pause, I want to think about the not only the gratitude but also the responsibility of that too. Is like if we are capturing ears and time, like how do we really create change in like a fun and meaningful way? It was very important to me. I think sometimes equity, organizational development, leadership, all those things feel very unfun,
Yeah.
or like the fun police. And I didn't want this podcast to be that. I didn't want it to be like, okay, we're like talking at people and saying all the things that they can't do. But I want to focus more on, again, since we do have some ears and listeners, how can we continue to create just like fun ways for people to continue to grow and evolve?
Yeah. I would say before you go, John, that is one of my favorite things to hear from folks when they tell me like, oh, I listened to this episode or I listened to the
Yeah.
podcast. I'm like, oh my God, thank you.
And that's meaningful for us. I think what we were able to do, at least in the first season, is like pick topics and subjects that are like truly meaningful for us. So,
Love it.
Ja.
I loved all of that. I loved all of that. And also I said it in a lot nicer way than the way that Karen said
You
it. Just so everybody knows. Just everybody knows. But I will say for me, again, like I've done this for a long time, and I produce like community-based radio shows. Like I've produced shows at Sirius XM on like both their like sports and like politics channels. Um, and I know that this isn't for everyone. Um, and like I love art, but like I'm not Ai Weiwei as much as I might want to be. But watching the both of you step into this space, it's clear that like not only do you have a passion for it, but like you're both really amazing at it. And like being able to take like really complex theory and conversations and like bring it down to something that's like digestible and fun and like your personalities shine through, that's really special. And like I've been incredibly grateful and honored to like be on this journey with the both of you and like see where you started from those first initial episodes um, from your podcast studio. Um, but the first episodes from that podcast studio that we shall not name. To like to, we shall not name.
They're done.
But the first initial episodes from that to like where you both are now is really incredible to see. And I'm excited for season two and to know that like by the time that season comes around, you both are going to be veterans in this game. And you're going to have more experiences to bring to the table. And that's going to benefit me, but then also the rest of the listeners as well.
That's something, John.
I know, right?
That really, actually, it really means a lot. I will say that it really means a lot coming from you because I know that you have a ton of experience in this space. So I'm hearing that as a responsibility for myself moving forward. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Karen, any other last words before we pass it to you to wrap us up?
No, I think Josh said it great. We can leave it on a high note.
Yes, we'll leave it on a high note and connect with folks in the fall.
I know. Well, thank you, Ja, for joining us for this wrap up episode and for being down with us behind the scenes and making sure we look good and sound good. We will, like Ani said, return in the fall with a new season and new episodes. So if you're behind or want to go back and re-listen to some episodes, please do that until we come back in the fall. If you would like to reach out to Ani and I directly, feel free to email us at thedon'tdothatpod@gmail.com. Share this podcast with a colleague or friend that you think would be interested, and be sure to leave us a review if you haven't done so yet. It helps to boost our engagement. And until next time, remember.
Wait. Can I do the thing? Can I do the thing too?
Yes. Yes, you can.
All right, let's do it.
All right, here we go. And until next time, remember,
Don't do that.
do that.